here with my mom today and we're gonna make some Sicilian cookies for Christmas. So why don't you meet my mom?
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna's mother. I'm very proud of her, but I don't want to be doing this tape, so hopefully she'll just turn it off now.
So Mom, I wanted to ask you what you remember about Sicilian cookies in Auntie's house. What you remember either as a young woman or as a child. What do you remember about Auntie's making cookies?
Well, I don't really remember so much about them making cookies, but I always looked forward to eating the cookies. They were absolutely delicious. And they made several different kinds, and I think they had one standard recipe that they would add things to it. If they wanted to make biscotti, they would add the almonds, or if they wanted to make cimino, then they would make the little logs and roll them in the sesame seed. So they found many different ways to use the recipe from a basic one.
Well, what was your favorite? I know I had my favorite.
Oh, probably what we call the cimino cookies, the sesame seed cookies.
Yeah, those, I like those too.
Yeah.
We're gonna make the dead man's bones today. What would you tell everyone what those are? Well,
I really don't know, because it was probably my least favorite cookie. I'm not very fond of them at all. But anyway, I always thought it was kind of like a meringue. And like I said, I just didn't eat them, but I had some cousins who really did love them and continue to make them to this day.
Well, we're also gonna make biscotti, which I don't know anyone who didn't love Auntie Rose's biscotti, because they were perfection. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes, except I didn't call them biscotti. I always call them
biscotti. I know.
So, yes, they are a good cookie to have with your coffee in the morning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Morning, afternoon, and evening.
Anytime.
Well, let's go in the kitchen and make some. So we have 4 cups of flour, and we're adding 2 pounds or 2 packages of powdered sugar. That's 1. There's the second one. Four teaspoons of baking powder. Just put it all in there. And the cloves, which are 2 teaspoons of clove. Okay, then we're gonna make a well in the middle. And we're gonna add 5 eggs, which have been just very lightly beaten so that the yolks are broken down. And then we'll add some almond extract, 4 teaspoons, and a splash of lemon extract also. And then you just start mixing until it becomes incorporated. Looks like you've done it a million times.
Yeah, right.
Just let Auntie Angie's hand guide you. You should wear this apron. I think that apron was hers too.
It's gonna take a while.
it up into 4 pieces. Just four. We broke it up into 4. And then put it in a bowl, and I'm gonna just cover it with a dish towel while we're working, so it doesn't get any drier than it is. And then we're gonna roll this out. So I've laid a dish towel out, and we're gonna set the bones on there. Okay. Maybe you could fix the one I rolled out.
I'd start it over is what I would do.
Okay. I mean, how many of these cookies do you think aunties used to make?
I have not a clue.
They had so many cookies. I feel like those pickle jars were bottomless.
I remember Auntie telling me that when her mother was alive and they were children, they used to get like these big, almost like a wine barrel container, and it would be filled with cookies, and it would be kept in the bedroom, and then when company came, they would go to the
I think you told me that story. Well, you know, I remember the cookies being on the side of the stove.
Yeah.
And they had a little area there, and they had these pickle jars stacked, and they were filled with cookies starting at Christmas, and I feel like they went all through to the summer.
It's just too long.
And what were you saying, Aunt Rose?
When she passed away, there was one of those pickle jars by the stove, some sesame seed cookies in it, and I thought, oh boy, I hit the jackpot. They were stale. I was so stingy with them.
Let's cut some of them.
Okay, how do you cut them, dear?
So you cut them on an angle. Yeah.
How big? Like that?
Yeah, about like that. I'd say like half of a finger. Yeah, perfect. Look at that, Mom. You're a natural.
Yeah.
What in the world are we going to do with all those cookies?
Especially I don't like them.
Huh?
Especially I don't like them.
After we rolled and sliced, we have 120 cookies, which will leave out, I don't know, at least 5 hours. They'll start to crack, and then it's going to take all day and night to bake them. And Nana's doing the dishes. Well, we better get cracking and make the biscotti. I have 10 ounces of flour, 3 eggs lightly beaten. To the flour, I'm adding half a teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I have 7 ounces of sugar, that's almost a cup, a stick of butter, a tablespoon of almond extract, and you're also gonna need a cup of coarsely chopped almonds. I'm going to cream the butter until it's really light in color. And then I just add the almond extract into the butter. And then you're going to gradually add your sugar. Pardon my family walking back and forth behind me. My husband was taking my son somewhere and they were getting ready to go. Nice and creamy. And then I'm gonna add the eggs. A little scraping, and then I'll gradually be adding the flour. So my mom chopped the almonds by hand. We have about a cup of them. We toasted them ahead of time. They were raw almonds, whole almonds, and they were toasted ahead of time. And we just chop them with a knife. I just chop them with a chef's knife. I actually don't have a nut grinder, and I prefer the coarseness of the nuts. You don't want them too big, or when you slice the biscotti, it's gonna split. So just gradually add the flour, and then I'll mix those nuts in nice and thoroughly. It's a wet dough, so don't expect something too dry, like a roll out cut, like cookie cutter cookies. It's a wet, moist dough. Even more moist than, say, a chocolate chip cookie, than a drop cookie. It's a little more moist than that, in my opinion. And the almonds, oh, you can never have too many of those. So just put in what's to your taste. So prepare a couple cookie sheets with some parchment paper. What my cousin Alicia does is she puts it in the refrigerator to chill the dough, and then she forms it into some loaves with her hands. And I'd say these loaves are about 2 to 2.5 inches across. They are going to spread quite a bit, so I don't make them too big. It depends how big you want your actual biscotti cookies to be. And I don't use my hand. I just use a spatula, and I've just always done it this way, and I can do it quickly. You can use your hands. You can put a little flour on your hands. You can chill the dough. It takes a little bit of practice to get the minutiae down on the cookies, to fine tune them, get them just right. The dough itself is easy to make. The critical part is in the baking. And so I had 2 logs and then 1 other log on a separate sheet. It's critical to let them cool for at least 30 minutes. They should be fairly room temperature. I use a serrated knife that I've sharpened, so make sure you have a good knife. Slice on the diagonal very carefully in a little sawing motion. And you get anywhere from 10 to 12 cookies a loaf. They should be a little bit soft. It shouldn't be cooked all the way through. Well, not like a biscotti. It's probably fine to eat that way, but it's not going to taste like your nice crunchy cookie. And then you're going to lay them out and bake for another 8 to 10 minutes, and then turn them over and bake for another 8 to 10 minutes on the other side. Nice and crispy is how I like them. I like them crunchy, 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 like a crouton. And then you dip it in your coffee, and they are delicious. I do not have another good picture of the cookies because they were eaten so quickly. So this is the next day. I just left them out overnight, the bones, And you can see on the sides there where they've started to dry and crack. And a miraculous thing is going to happen when you put them in the oven. You can really only put about a dozen on a cookie sheet, and I only bake one layer at a time. I don't use the second rack. And the sugar starts to spill out in a circle, and you get this lovely looking cookie. So the bone itself on top is the flour mostly, and it's hollow inside. And even the cookie itself is kind of airy and very spicy with the clove, and they are quite delicious dipped in coffee. Now, these are the sesame cookies that my mom was talking about. She made them a few days later, and you can see my empty Biscotti jar, my pickle jar, behind the cookies there. There's the empty bone there. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and my mom this afternoon, making some of our family favorites. Please leave me a comment and let me know what your family favorites are and if you're baking this year. Have a wonderful weekend. Ta!